Hello and welcome to episode 44 of the Sandeman Street podcast, a podcast about Dundee and Dundee United from fans of both clubs. I'm Andrew and joining me as usual is my regular co-host Jack. Jack, how are you today?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Not bad, mate, not bad. And as it's our season-ending season review special, or however you would like to put it, we'll have a special guest, and that is Martin. Martin's back to join us again. How are you?
All good, thank you. Thank you for having me on for the end of season review. Looking forward to talking about the season, and it's many ups and downs.
Well, I'm sure we'll find positives and negatives to take from both teams. But just before we get going, I'm a regular plug for our social media platforms. So on Twitter we are at SandemanStPod. On YouTube we are at the Sandeman Street Podcast. And on Instagram at the Sandeman Street Pod. So Instagram at Sandeman Street Pod, YouTube at Sandeman Street Podcast. I know it's a bit of a mixture and a mixed bag, but it was all I could get when I was making the each individual one. So if you could give us a follow on each of those if you can, subscribe on YouTube, like our videos, share stuff, repost stuff, it would be much appreciated and is appreciated for those who do it. But we'll move on, and I think quickly we'll cover the midweek games from last week. So Dundee went down 3-1 to Kilmarnock at Rugby Park and were 400th visit there this season, and United with a less than entertaining 0-0 draw at home to already relegated Livingston. So I think I'll throw it to you guys, you two are the Arabs, and you can cover it as best you can.
I think for me, I don't actually know if I watched the highlights of this game or not. I think I had zero interest in watching it, knowing the score and knowing that it meant nothing really. The result, though, doesn't really surprise me. It's essentially a dead rubber for United, and Livy being down, they probably wanted to show a bit of something. That they still had a bit of fight in them, regardless of them being relegated.
Well, they certainly didn't show that on Sunday.
Well, no, definitely not. But I think United laid down for them slightly. Despite it being 0-0, I think the quality meant it stayed at 0-0 rather than no team trying, essentially. But yeah, 0-0, it is what it is. Just end of season game, no real jeopardy involved, and you take the point when you get it, I suppose.
Yeah, it's just Jim Goodwin and the curse of the post-split fixtures, is it? He's not got a great record in them, and this is another game that's just going to add into that list of uninspiring post-split games, eh? You know, I was at the game against Kilmarnock. The players looked then like they were away on holiday already, and I think that definitely has continued into this game and the game at the weekend that we'll touch on in a few minutes. But just end of season, nothing to play for. A pity as well, because there was a good crowd there. There was over 8,000 there on a Tuesday night against Livingston in a meaningless game. So, you know, it means a lot to the fans that still want to go and see football getting served up. But, I just don't know if it's a mentality thing, if the players just didn't want to risk injury before the summer, or if they just couldn't really be bothered. But, yeah, nothing exciting really, when Livingston are coming to Tannadice and getting more possession.
Just touching on the your post-split fixtures thing about Goodwin. In 18 post-split fixtures, he's won twice.
It's not good enough, is it?
That's terrible.
That makes the derby result even more of a beamer.
Yeah, shocking. Twice.
It's a poor result. You know, these are the games where really it can be crunch time. You know, if you're facing a relegation fight, which we haven't been under Jim Goodwin, thankfully. You know, you need to be having a good record in these games. You're fighting for your survival, or you're maybe fighting for a place in Europe. It's just, I don't know why he just can't rally the troops and get performances in post-split. It's a weird one, but it's not great.
Is it a fair observation to say that Jim Goodwin's team start seasons relatively alright and peter out?
It definitely has been this season. I've said it on the podcast many a times. When I was at Tannadice watching us play Rapid Vienna, I didn't think we were going to go and win the league, but I was sitting there thinking, here's a team that, when they gel, we can maybe get a wee cup run on the go here, maybe get to Hampden for a semi-final, maybe even do one better and get to a final. But it's been the only team in world football that I've ever known to get worse as they've had time to gel and bond as a team. It's just been really disappointing this season, the way things have went downhill rather than uphill from a fairly good starting position. We had a good start in the league, had a good start in Europe, and it just, for whatever reason, he hasn't got the best out of these players that showed a lot of promise and a lot of quality individually and as a team at the start of the season. You had good individual performances from players earlier on the season, but you also had a team of players that would dig each other out if they made mistakes. They had a real fight, they had a real hunger in them, and I'm thinking this is the most determined United team I've seen in a while. But now that we're at the end of the season, it's like this is one of the least determined United sides I can remember seeing. It's just crazy how the season's petered out compared to where we were at the start and the hopes I had for it.
And what about you, Jack? What do you think of that assessment? I know it's a fairly it could be seen as a fairly obvious assessment if you look at Jim Goodwin's post-split record, but it often seems like that. Like even last season, United, I felt, were fairly consistent right the way through the season, but then it got towards the end and they were struggling to pick up points. And I don't know if that's accurate, but what do you reckon about that assessment?
Yeah, I think so. I think he struggles when it comes to pressure games. You kind of get the team up for it. I think at the start of the season, when it's a new season and players are just naturally up for it, then the players are going to be up for it, and they'll typically get a somewhat decent result. You'll get a decent start to the season. But as the season goes on and the players are less motivated, Goodwin doesn't seem to be able to get a tick out of them, especially for the bigger games. Like, I mind against Dundee in the derbies sometimes. Obviously, this season, United have probably had it a bit better in the derbies, but he always says, the players don't need any motivation. They're going to be up for it. But some of the appearances and some of the games we've played against Dundee and other teams, when he said that, the team's been appalling. We've played terribly. So I don't know if he assumes too much of the players regarding their mental state, but I think the assessment's fair in that the team does peter out towards the end of the season, I think, because of the fact that Goodwin can't motivate the players like he should be able to.
You know what? I'm looking at a wee stat just now. 38 league games this season. We've only won 10 of them. 26% of league games this season we've won. That's just not good enough. It's not good enough at all. Now, I'm not saying that I want us to go on a run of winning like 60% of our games or a massive percent like that, but to only win, really, we'll just call it 25% of your games, 1 in 4. It's not good enough. It really isn't. And that's why, for me, Goodwin isn't the man. And, I would have got rid of him after we were knocked out of the Scottish Cup, gave another manager time to assess the squad, do what he needs to do with it, and then rebuild in the summer. I do not think he's the man to take us forward. It's all fair. People are saying, a couple of derby wins, 2 wins against Celtic at Tannadice. When was the last time we had that? But, what's the point in beating Celtic twice at Tannadice if you're no winning games against Livingston and St Mirren? You know what I mean? There's no point in it. It's been a really poor season.
I'm pretty sure that Dundee have won more games in the league than United this season.
Could well have done.
I'm not 100% sure on that stat. I'm sure I've read it online. I haven't checked it, but I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest. I think Dundee have not had that many draws, so it's either one or the other when it comes to Dundee. But I would have to have a look at that to make sure. As for Dundee in the midweek fixtures, we're playing Kilmarnock, who obviously had a lot to play for. They confirmed their status in the Premiership for next season last Tuesday, and it was a case of Dundee, who already knew they were safe. Stephen Presley give a lot of boys rests. A lot of the boys who were playing all season, your likes of your Hamiltons, Dundees, etc., Congreves, Jugans, etc., all rest. Some of them didn't even make the squad, and he went for a lot of the players who haven't been featured a lot this season, or who have been on the bench for most of the season. And so first half fairly solid. Kilmarnock did score, but it was ruled out from VAR, and then they go 1-0 up in the second half. Charlie Reilly gets a goal, took a deflection and awarding it to him, although it doesn't seem to have been given to him. Thought that was incredibly harsh. Then Kilmarnock got a penalty. I don't know if either of you have seen it. I know that Jack has, and I know that Jack thinks it is a penalty. I just think it's fucking bonkers how that could be given as a penalty, but anyway it was. And then Kilmarnock score a breakaway goal to go 3-1 up late on, which, I mean, it was very, very poor defending from Dundee, and if it wasn't for the fact that the season was kind of done in terms of Dundee didn't have much to play for, you'd be absolutely fizzing at that. But yeah, the season is done, and the Kilmarnock finally did beat us to get that 3 points and stay up.
I think Kilmarnock are looking very good under Neil McCann, by the way.
And that's mental to say that, Jack, because up until I seen Livingston last weekend, Kilmarnock were the worst team I'd seen this season. They played them at Dens when Kettlewell had been sacked, and it was Chris Doolan was in interim charge, and they were absolutely terrible. And Dundee comfortably beat them that night, and it was only 2-1. But it was, you know, when the scoreline doesn't reflect the game, it was one of them. But then I seen Livingston last week, and they were already relegated. They didn't have much to play for, other than their own personal pride. But they were honking last week. Dundee took them to the cleaners, and 3-0 really flattered Livingston. But no, Kilmarnock obviously got themselves out of trouble, and it's kind of coincided with their good run of form's kind of coincided with St Mirren torpedoing. I don't know how I feel about them going into the playoffs, whether or not I think that they have enough about them to stay up. It's a tricky one.
They've not got goals.
Nah, they don't. They didn't score very many goals at all.
No. And
they've got striker injuries. The boy Junga's injured. I think Mandron's still fit, but other than that, they don't score enough goals. Well, we'll see what happens with that as things progress. But we'll move on to the games this weekend just passed on Sunday. So yesterday, as we record on Monday, and as we're speaking about Dundee, we'll touch on them first. 3-2 victory over Aberdeen. It's our first back-to-back victories over Aberdeen since like the year 2000. So that's a positive. Came back from a 2-1 down. The goals that Dundee conceded were so poor. Obviously they go 1-0 up with a goal from Dre Wright, from a goal that Aberdeen would probably consider to be a poor goal defensively, but good build-up play from Dundee. They then lose a goal from a header from a back post from a corner, and it's just so poor. I mean, all season long Dundee have been vulnerable from the back post to set pieces. It's just, they just do not learn. Obviously they then go 2-1 down. You're playing against Aberdeen, and they've got Nisbet, Olasanya, and Keskinen. One of them was guaranteed to score because they all love playing against Dundee, and it was Olasanya's turn this time. Sneaks through the Dundee defence, who are all flat-footed, and to get the knock on, I think it was Lyle Cameron who hit it from the edge of the box, and squeeze it in to go 2-1 up for half-time. Joe Wesley gets us back into the game, and then in the last minute Ryan Astley scores. So all in all, 8th place finish. You can't grumble with that, especially given how bleak it looked in the summer, and finishing above Aberdeen, who have got far more resources than Dundee do. And at one point we were 10th. We were finishing 10th when we were, I think, even when we were at 2-all. So to get that winner put us up 2 places, and I think it's at least 150 grand difference in prize money. So it's a big difference on the budget next season, hopefully, and that might even be a player. So yeah, it definitely made a difference in terms of that. Feels good to be Aberdeen, not the biggest of fans in all honesty. And another stat, since we've had a few of them already, obviously we all use Futbology. When I checked into the game, as you all know, it comes up like the stats and whatever from your previous games and your previous times seeing that fixture. Before the game on Sunday, I had seen Aberdeen beat Dundee 28 times and it's seen Dundee beat Aberdeen 7 times. So it's now 8 versus 28. So not the best of records, but the last 2 victories have been good and they've been sweet. But always good to end the season on a high. That's the past couple of years now that we've won on the final day. You go back a couple of years with Drew. The year before that, won the league on the final day. So the final day's been a bit better than the first day of the season for Dundee in recent years. We'll move on to you guys. St Mirren already confirmed into the playoffs. They'll face Partick. But before that, the Drew 1-1 was to yourselves. I don't know if you made it, Martin. I know that you were planning on making it.
I was going to go, but you know what? I finished work on Thursday. Had to go and see my gran. It was her birthday during the week last week, and by the time I'd done that, the club shop had closed, and I totally forgot to go and get a ticket. So I didn't make it. But you know what? With hindsight, maybe not a bad thing. Much like the Livy game, just a game that, going by the stats anyway, the players probably just couldn't really care about putting much of an effort in. 17 shots for St Mirren, 6 for United. I think that one stat says it all, really. Yeah, just, 25 touches in the United box for St Mirren, 12 for us in their box. It's not good. And you know what? I think it just highlights the chronic lack of creativity that we've got going forward this season. That's something that I thought in the derby against Dundee. Yeah, we scored 3 goals, but one of those goals was an absolute humdinger. That first goal, and the other 2 goals came from the fullbacks. I just think that when we go forward, we look like we're just totally clueless as to how to carry out an attack, how to make things happen in the final third, and it's just, yeah, that St Mirren game, just glad to get it over and done with. Write this season off, consign it to the history books, and hope for the best next season.
What's concerning me is Jim Goodwin came out after after the St Mirren game, saying that they know where we need to strengthen next season. He said defensively we need to shore up, but offensively he thinks we're excellent, and he thinks that everyone can see the threat that we pose going forward.
And that's exactly why I don't think he's the man for us next season. I don't know if he's maybe watching the under-20s or whatever it is, or maybe the women's team, but he's certainly not watching the men's first team, because going forward we just have nothing. You know what I mean? It's really poor. It really is poor.
Yeah, it is. I agree, mate. I don't think he should be in charge next season, but I guess we'll wait and see.
And I've no disliking for the guy. He's came in, he's done a job. He got relegated as the captain of that sinking ship that season. Nobody could have saved us that season. He got us promoted the season after it, and you know what? We had a good season in the Premier League last season. Finished in a decent position, got into Europe, but it's just I can't see how he takes us forward from this position, to be honest with you.
Neither. So as for the St Mirren game, as Martin said, the stats made it seem like it was one-way traffic. I watched the highlights. It essentially showed the same thing. I think United had literally one highlight, and it was the goal. It was a cross in for Max Waters, and it was essentially a karate kick from Sapsford, and it goes into the back of the net. And then St Mirren just piled the pressure on. Dave Richard made a few good saves, it looked like. He didn't mess up with a goal St Mirren had that got chopped off for offside, but that spilt right through his hands. But yeah, their goal was a wicked deflection. Keeper routed to the spot. He was never getting to it. And that is the last game of the season. Good to see young Keir Gilligan getting his debut for the club. I played the full 90 minutes at left back with Will Ferry being away. He was given that opportunity, so it was good to see that a young player getting the chance in the first team for the full 90 minutes. But yeah, typical end of season game for United. No jeopardy once again, no pressure, no real will to play or put in a decent performance. Just turn up, get paid and go home. And I think that's what happened.
Well, that's a brutal assessment, but certainly as somebody who has only really watched you guys once in the split, and it was the only time that you've won, but having obviously seen your results, I'm not going to argue with you. You guys all know far more than me, and you guys all have seen far more than me, so I can't really argue or put any sort of opposing point of views across. But we'll move on. Jack, the score predictions. We've reached the end of our season.
Shocking.
Now, you needed a big weekend. You still had the chance to to win the challenge, but you needed a big weekend. I think there was a 3-point deficit. Now, we had 2 rounds of fixtures. We had game week 32 for ourselves and game week 33. Obviously, we started the score predictions slightly earlier. Slightly later in the season, should I say. So, we went into the midweek games, United against Livy and Killie against Dundee. For the United versus Livy game, you went for 2-0 and I went for 2-0. It finished 0-0, so 0 points all round. And for Killie, I went 1-1 and you went 2-0 and it finished 3-1 Killie, so 0 points all round. So it really needed a big result from you on the final game week of the season. Dundee versus Aberdeen. I went 2-1 Dundee and you went 3-0 Aberdeen. It finished 3-2 Dundee.
Yeah.
Picked up a point there. And St Mirren versus United. I went 2-0 St Mirren and you went 1-0. Finished 1-0, so you finished with a flourish. 2 points. So final scores in the score prediction challenge for this season as Andrew 33, Jack 31.
I'd be interested to see how much money I'd win or lose if I'd betted all the results throughout the season.
Yeah, it'd be good. It'd be quite interesting.
Yeah. Might do that next year.
So, the champion this season is myself.
Congratulations.
Get it up, you ped. Anyway, we'll carry on with the weekend's results. So there's a lot to get through here. On Friday, there was 2 playoffs. Dunfermline played Partick at Firhill in the second leg of the Premiership playoff semi-final. That went 2-1 to Thistle, so Thistle go through 3-2 on aggregate, and as previously mentioned, they will face St Mirren in the final on Thursday, and then Monday I think the final is. League 1 playoff final on Friday as well between Hamilton Accies and Clyde. That finished Hamilton Accies 4, Clyde 3, with an aggregate scoreline of 5-4 to Hamilton Accies. So the status quo remains: Hamilton stay in League 1, Clyde stay in League 2. Moving on to Saturday, big game in the Premiership was Celtic against Hearts, league decider. We're no touching that with a 10-foot pole. That finished 3-1 to Celtic, who won the league, and that's the last we're mentioning of that before we get cancelled. Falkirk 2, Rangers 5, and Hibernian 0, Motherwell 1. There was also a couple of playoff finals. The Championship playoff final finished Stenhousemuir 0, Alloa 1. Stenhousemuir winning 3-2 on aggregate, so they get promoted to the Championship, I think for the first time in their history, so well done to them. And the League 2 playoff pyramid final, Jack, that finished Edinburgh City 2, Brora Rangers 0, so Edinburgh City remain in League 2 with an aggregate scoreline of 3-1.
I never got to that game. I was planning on going, but I had plans pop up, so
I would have liked to have went. But you know what, I'm quite happy Edinburgh City stayed up. It's one of those grounds I want to go to because everybody says how bad it is.
Yeah.
Quite fancy going.
Yeah,
it actually looked better when the old relic of a stand was there before they'd done all the improvements.
I've not seen the old version.
And finally...
A boy in my work was saying about Brora. He's got a theory that Brora don't want to be promoted because they always get so far and they never make it.
Yeah, there is a lot of rumours going around about that. So they got to the playoff final about 11 years ago and Montrose beat them. But round about that time they were saying how they didn't want to get promoted, and it was when they were chucking money at it and they were signing boys like Kettlewell and Grant Munro and boys like that who had been players up obviously in Inverness and Ross County. I think they still throw decent dough about for the Highland League, but not what to the extent of what they were doing. And you need to remember where Brora is. Brora's a trek.
Yes,
Martin, I think Martin will have maybe been. Martin's the gallivanter here. He'll have been to Brora.
I've passed through Brora a few times. It's the back end of Iowa, really. It's not the easiest. Unless you're going through Brora, you don't end up in that neck of the woods, really. Yeah, you're quite far out. So
it's a trek. Obviously, they'd have to do it every second week, and you've got clubs like Annan, Sunrar. They're in the League 2 at the moment, so you've got them having to go up there. Obviously Elgin's up there as well, so they would be relatively local to them, but I think even Elgin would be at least an hour, maybe even a couple of hours from Brora. But I think you could kind of put that rumour to bed in a way, because if they didn't want to get promoted, they wouldn't have got their bronze licence.
Yeah, that's fair.
Which, obviously, Linlithgow Rose didn't get in time. I'm not saying that they didn't want it, but they didn't get it in time to play Brora. So Brora have done all they can to get promoted, apart from one on the pitch. Anyway, on Sunday there was 3 games. They finished Dundee 3, Aberdeen 2, Livy 1, Killie 4, and St Mirren 1, United 1. And I think that covers everything. League Championship playoffs, we've covered the League 1 and League 2, and the Premiership playoffs are Thursday. Partick against St Mirren from 8 o'clock, and then the Scottish Cup final is on Saturday, 3 o'clock, Celtic against Dunfermline, and the following Monday night is from 8 o'clock at St Mirren Park, as St Mirren against Thistle in the second leg. So we've covered all of that, and as I say, well done to all league winners: Celtic, St Johnstone, Inverness and Esk Kilbride, I think, are all the league winners. So well done to all them. Ref watch, lads. Okay, so we'll throw out the big one straight away. They might as well go straight to the obvious one. Was the penalty that Celtic got in the last minute for Park against Motherwell a penalty or not? Martin?
Yes, penalty. Hate to say it.
I agree. I don't see how there is so much uproar about it, because even if it's not a penalty, I don't think you can conclusively say it's hit his hand or it's not hit his hand. Now, people will then argue from me saying that if that's my answer, you don't give the penalty, and I totally understand that. But I do think it's hit his hand. I don't think you can argue against that. Jack, I think you have a different opinion.
I do. I think it's a shocking decision. I don't think it's a penalty at all. I think he's unfortunate. So you made the point that it's not conclusive as to whether it's hit his hand or not. I think the more you look at it, you think it probably has hit his hand, right? But it took John Beaton 19 seconds to judge that hit his hand on him. I don't think that's how you can come to that conclusion. And in 19 seconds is beyond me. Second off, the ball goes miles. It goes out for a throw, and if it hits his hand, it's not going to go out for a throw, I don't think. Third off, I think he's unfortunate in that as he's jumped for the ball, Trusses came up from under him and has lifted his hand up. But let's be honest, if his hand wasn't there, it's still hitting his head. Trusses no getting near that ball. So one, you can't guarantee it's hit his hand. Absolutely, you can't guarantee it, right? 2, it's went miles, and 3, it was hitting his head regardless. I don't think Motherwell have gained their advantage from that at all. I think the rules are preposterous as is anyway. Obviously, as the terms of the game, the rules of the game just now, it may be a penalty, but it has to conclusively say it's hit his hand. And the fact that people are arguing about whether it's a foul or not, or it's a handball or not, tells me, and it should tell you as well, it's not clear and obvious. And so it shouldn't have been pulled up by VAR. So for me, it's not a penalty.
I agree with all that. I agree with it's not clear and obvious, and I agree that you can argue that it would hit his head and blah blah. I think my main kind of, I'm going to say gripe, because in all honesty I don't really care. I think my main kind of thing that's kind of perplexed me the most in the aftermath of it happening is the absolute uproar about it, because I don't think it's that bad of a decision. I think that you could see it either way. It's not like he's jumped in the air with his hands by his side and headed it away and the referee's went penalty handball, and everyone's like totally scunnered by it and like, oh, how on earth could you say it's handball? It's not going to be his hand. His hand is in front of his head.
Yeah, I get that, right? But the problem is that it shouldn't have been. He never gave the foul. He never gave it. So there's no reason for VAR to get involved there, because it's not clear and obvious.
Yeah,
I think that's where the uproar is.
And that's why I've said on this podcast numerous times this season, Jack, that I think they should just bin the clear and obvious shite, and they should say, we want decisions correct. And if a referee is sitting in that VAR booth and he thinks that referee has made a ricket and he needs to correct it, then he says, you've done that wrong, regardless if it's clear and obvious or not, that's a penalty. To be honest with you, Jack, and I know they tried this in England when they first brought it in, that was different from Europe and FIFA, and they quickly got rid of it. But I actually think it's the right way to go, in all honesty, because you've got a qualified referee who also does games as well in the VAR studio with 2 assistant referees with him. I honestly think that they should just make the decision.
Yeah, possibly.
Because one, it would be far quicker, and the other thing would be is that they're qualified referees. If they think that something's wrong, then they should be given the decision.
Just because you're qualified doesn't mean you're good, though.
Oh, it doesn't mean you're good, mate. But is there a good one in Scotland?
Well, no, that's the problem, mate.
If there is, then I'm yet to see it.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to say was, and this pissed me off, to be honest with you, was you get because I've always, as I've said numerous times to you on this podcast, to everybody, I am for VAR. Like, I would keep it, and I think it will only get better through time. All you ever hear about VAR is it takes too long, John Beaton goes over to the screen and, as you say, takes 19 seconds, which is quick in terms of how long they're at the monitor, and he gives it. And everyone's now moaning about him being at the monitor for 19 seconds. You can't hate it both ways. You either say you take as long as you need and will not complain about it, or the other way. Like, you can't hit it both ways. It just pisses me off, that.
Yeah,
it's just hypocrisy, mate. Yeah.
That's a fair point. But
anyway.
What gets me about it is, like I say, as much as I hate saying it, I think it was a penalty. What gets me about it is once again saying it, is the inconsistency of decisions that we're getting in this country. What's a handball and what's a foul one week isn't necessarily a handball and a foul the next week. There seems to be so much subjectivity from the VAR team about whether or not it's a handball, or is it clear and obvious, or is it deliberate, and it's just, VAR isn't the problem, and I've said that from the start. It's the people watching the VAR screens that are the problem. The referees in this country who are incompetent. And one thing I will say, I'm going to echo the words of Michael Stewart here, which I never thought I'd be doing. He made a very good point on Premier Sports before the Livingston game, I think it was yesterday. He was talking about the decision, and he was talking about how he quite rightly doesn't think it's a conspiracy, which I don't think it is either, to get Celtic winning the league. But what he did say is that he made a point that really, really impacted me. He said that Rangers and Celtic have the ability to do something in this country that no other team does. As soon as something doesn't go their way refereeing, there's statements, they're on the moral high ground, they're taken to the SFA. Rangers and Celtic can exert so much influence against the SFA and against referees with the weight that they throw about in this game that, like I say, no other club in Scotland can. That's not healthy for the game. That's not healthy for refereeing in this country. And although I don't think it will ever be the case, something needs to be done about it, because, you know what? I think I've said this on the podcast before. I used to think that, growing up, the referees, they're all just for Celtic and Rangers. And you know what? Justifiably so, I think I've held that opinion before. But, as you get older and a bit more mature and you look at the game a bit more sensibly, you realise that they are just incompetent. But Celtic and Rangers, they certainly seem to think and act at times that they rule the roost and they have the final say on how things should be in this league. And it's not healthy for the league, and it's not healthy for the way the league's refereed, the amount of power that they can exert over referees. And, how often have we seen it with Rangers? Rangers are so bad for if something goes against them. Oh, we'll release a statement about it, and it's talked about for days in the media, and it's a big controversy, all because they've released a statement and because they're not happy about it. Well, you know what? That's the way the game went. That was the decision that was made. You just have to deal with it like every other club in the league, bar Celtic, deals with it.
Then how do you change that?
Well, that's the thing. How do you change it? I don't think you can, because Celtic
Foreign
and Rangers hold
refs.
so much power.
Foreign
refs is the answer, but that's never going to happen. You're never going to have foreign referees in this country. The referees in this country would be, rightfully so, in uproar about that, you know what I mean? And as much as I agree that would be an ideal solution, I don't think it's a realistic solution. Again, I don't think there is a solution to that problem, to be honest with you. You know, we live in the world that we live in, and Celtic and Rangers are by far and away the biggest and most influential two clubs in this country by a country mile. And it's just the way the league is. You know, you speak to boys that have been watching football since before we were born, they'll tell you exactly the same thing. It's been like that since their day. And you know what? See, when our kids are watching football when we're gone, and our grandkids are watching it, it'll probably still be the same.
Well, that's reassuring. Yeah. Jack, is there any other ones that you would like to talk about? Any other decisions? I'm trying to rack in my brain to think if there's any. I know that we briefly spoke about earlier the one that Kilmarnock got against Dundee, which I didn't think was and you thought was, but is there any other ones that you could think of off the top of your head?
I can't think of any that happened this week, no.
No.
Apart from the Dundee one.
The one that Hearts got a given against Celtic Park, so the one that Celtic got against Hearts is the right way to word that. That was just a stick-on penalty. No one's arguing with that one.
I've actually seen someone on the comments saying that it shouldn't be the foul. I shouldn't be the penalty, but I'm guessing they've taken the piss because it was an absolute stonewall.
It's a stonewall in today's rules. That's just a penalty all day long. Yeah, so we'll move on. Transfer news, Jack. Before we started recording, you said that you've got a few rumours that you'd like to address.
Yeah, I've actually got 5 bits of news or rumours to go for United. This is just from reading the forums as I normally do. I have a wee look before I come on and I see if there's any rumours going about. The first rumour is, even though we've offered Dave Richards a contract, Aberdeen apparently have offered him a deal as well as the backup keeper for next year, which is an interesting one. I actually don't mind Dave Richards. I think he's a suitable backup and I would probably keep him at United if we could. I think he's better than Maynard Brewer by a mile. I don't know what you think, Martin, but I don't rate Maynard Brewer in the slightest.
I think he's better than Maynard Brewer, but he's not who I'd want as my number one. I think we need a new goalkeeper who is going to be able to consistently perform and, you know, consistently do the business for us. I don't dislike Richards. I do quite like him. He does a good job, but I just don't think he's a first team keeper.
Yeah, I don't think first team, but as a backup, mate, he's a safe pair of hands. You know what you get with him. So I'd be happy with him. Another rumour is that Zach Satsford apparently wants to leave. He's homesick. I think we've noticed that for a while. His performances haven't been there, and I think that's probably why. It'd be a big loss, but if he's not happy, then he's not happy.
I can't argue with that.
Yeah. Another one is we're looking to offer Dylan Tate a contract from Falkirk, defensive midfielder, but he's got interest down south, so whether we can get that done or not, it's still to be seen, but interesting piece of business if it gets done. I don't know if he'd work well under Jim Goodwin, but could be a decent signing there. Ryan Strain has officially left the club today. He's left the club and will be looking at pastures new. And the last piece of rumour, which I thought was very interesting, is that Jim Goodwin is rumoured to be wanted by Steve Clarke if he gets the Celtic job. And he's also got interest from elsewhere apparently, so that could be a big change for United come the summer if Steve Clarke gets the Celtic job.
Jim Goodwin as in he's assistant manager?
As in backroom team, yeah.
Let's hope Steve Clarke signs a contract at Celtic then,
Yeah, that would be the most negative playing team in the world, by the way. Jim Goodwin and Steve Clarke on the same coaching team. Wow.
Yeah, Lyndon Dykes up front.
Yeah.
Ryan Christie in the hole. Oh God, Ryan Christie, man. I'm absolutely sick and tired of shouting at him at Scotland games. As for Dundee side of things, Jack, I've not really heard anything in terms of incomings. The only rumour is that Dundee are still interested in the boy Stanway from Partick Thistle on a pre-contract. He also has other suitors like United are rumoured to be one of them. Aberdeen, I think, are the most strongly linked team with him.
A lot of competition there.
So yeah, as you say, a lot of competition. The good news is though that we've signed 2 players on contract extensions. One of them is Kieran O'Hara, the goalkeeper, so whether or not he's going to be the number 1 next season if John McCracken does leave, or just continue to be the backup, it's stability there at least. And Ryan Astley has signed a new 3-year deal, which probably paid for itself with his goal on Sunday. Good 2 players to get on extensions. Hopefully a couple more do sign. We're hoping that Billy Cometio will at least have his contract option used by the club. I would imagine, because that's not been used already, that the club will probably be trying to negotiate a longer deal for him without having to use the extension. But we await news on that. Other than that though, not really any sort of incomings that I could tell you about. I think that'll probably start to materialise towards as we get towards June. Players getting released from clubs, especially in England. I think Dundee will probably look to that market like they did last season. So transfer news wrapped up. Just before we move on to what we're here to do and review the season, we'll cover the Futbology Challenge. 2 forfeit weeks for the 2 you guys, so 2 defeats. I had a game from the 18th of May 2024. It was a 1-1 draw between Dundee and Kilmarnock. At Dens, a crowd of 6,637 watched the game. The managers were Tony Docherty and Derek McInnes, and the starting lineups were as follows. For Dundee, McCracken, Dodson, Donnelly, McGee, Portales, Cameron, Mulligan, Silla, Bakayoko, McCowan and Tiffany. And on the bench, Sharp, Astley, Boateng, Howley, Robertson, Costello, Main, Mellon and Robinson. On the Kilmarnock team, they went with Dennis, Findlay, Dees and Daba, Wright, Polworth, Donnelly, Murray, Mackay-Stephen, Watkins and Mackenzie. And on the bench, O'Hara, Vassell, Van Veen, Kennedy, Watson, Cameron, Armstrong, Balzagli and Stewart. The scorers were Mackay-Stephen on 24 and McCowan on 37. Now, with the plan being that this is game week 39 of the Futbology Challenge, the plan being that the game week 40 will be our final game week of the season. That point that I've picked up, that means I am now the champion of the Futbology Challenge. Now, regular listeners and new listeners are going to think, if they've been listening today, that I've won 2 challenges, that this is some sort of fix. It's not. But yeah, that puts me on to 49 points with only 1 game remaining. Martin on 45 and Jack in the relegation zone on 23. He'll be getting relegated for PED. So yeah, that is
no points.
Yeah, Pellet at 0 points. -5 for being bald. And that is moving me on to 49. So champion of the Futbology Challenge for 25-26 is myself. We will do this again next season, hopefully with obviously being a new year, we'll get different games because we'll stick to recording on the same date as much as possible. So well done lads. We'll obviously finish that off on the episode we're doing in a few weeks time, and we'll get the final league tables posted on that. But we'll move on to a few different things that we have coming in this episode for our review of the season. So first of all, I just wanted to touch on an episode that neither of yourselves were on back towards the beginning of the season, and if anyone who has been a regular listener will remember, myself and it was Reese at the time done a 25-26 league table prediction challenge type thing, and I was just wanting to review that to see how we got on. So we'll go through each of them by first and second and so on. So for first, I put Celtic and Reese went with Rangers. Second, I went Rangers and Reese went Celtic. Third, I went Hearts and so did Reese. Fourth, I went Hibs and so did Reese. Fifth, I went with United and Reese went with Aberdeen. Sixth, I went Aberdeen and Reese went Motherwell. Seventh, I went with St Mirren and Reese went with United, so he got that one right. Eighth, I went with Motherwell and Reese went with St Mirren. Ninth, I went Kilmarnock, Reese went with Livingston. 10th, I went Falkirk, Reese went with Kilmarnock. 11th, I went Dundee, Reese went with Dundee. And 12th, I went Livingston, and Reese went with Falkirk. So, looking on that, I got Celtic right. I got not very many others right.
That's it, I think. No.
I got Livingston right in 12th. But other than that, I was totally incorrect. Reese got United in 7th right, and that's it. You got Kilmarnock in 10th. So we both got 2 correct out of 12. So shows how much we know. But yeah, I just wanted to cover that just to see how we got on. I thought it would be good to scrutinise that. Next, what we'll do is, you guys are up for the United side of things, I'm up for the Dundee side of things, but we'll have a signings review. So maybe A, B, C, D, or marks out of 10. How do you want to work it?
Let's do ABCD.
Okay, so I'll throw you both the United signings and loan signings for the season, and you could do the same for me, Jack, with the Dundee one. So I'll go first. So the first signing I have for United, Zach Sapsford, Western Sydney Wanderers for an undisclosed fee.
I'm going to go B+. I think he's had a good season. He's still young. Obviously, he leaves. It's not great, but he was good at the start of the season. He has tailed off a bit, but he's still only 23, so I think it's probably a good sign in long term. So yeah, B+ for me.
Okay, what about yourself, Martin?
I'm going to give him a B. I think he picked up a lot of his grade at the start of the season. He looked a real hot prospect, but yeah, form's obviously tailed off as the seasons went on, and if he is feeling homesick, that's, I think, a reasonable excuse, to be fair. Like, you know, imagine working on the other side of the world. It's a big ask, is it? Especially when you've got thousands of people every week sort of screaming and shouting at you when you're making a mistake. So yeah, a B for him. Could have been better, but could have been worse.
Okay. Next up we have Yuri Yovu.
I think Juve's been actually quite a good signing for us. I'm going to give him he has made a couple of mistakes, but he's only 21. I think he's got a very good future ahead of him, I think. I'm going to give him also a B+.
And I think I'll give him a B myself. A good looking player who's definitely got a lot of potential. Made a few mistakes, but he is young, but definitely a player for the future, I think. Hopefully next season he can kick on, and we'll see what happens with him. But yeah, give him a B, because he's been solid enough at the back.
Okay, next up we have Panucci Kamara.
I'm going to give him... He looked very good at the start of the season, and then he has tailed off massively. I'm going to give him a C. I think he's been fine. I think we've probably got better options in the middle of the pitch. He doesn't suit 2 in the middle. I think he's better as a 3, but obviously Goodwin only plays with 2 there, so he's not playing to the best of his abilities. And he's a bit older as well, so C for me.
I'm going to go for B again, and the reason I'm giving him a B is because, yeah, you know, performances have tailed off as the seasons went on, but I think when he has been good, he has been very good, so he's picked up some points there with me. You know, he's made real impact in games that he's been good in, but yeah, he just wasn't consistent enough with that form to get anything higher.
Okay, I'll give you 2 now. I think for one of them I'll know at least that I'll be low. So the first one is Yevan Kucherenko, and the second one Bert Esselink.
Okay, Kucherenko. I think he was a decent shot stopper, but the rest of his game was very poor. He's got to be an F. He was a fail. We got rid of him after 6 months, and I think he probably cost us top 6. So I'm going to go F for him. Bert Esselink, I feel sorry for, because I actually think he's probably a very good defender. I think he just got burnt a couple of times for pace, and Goodwin has lost his trust in him. I actually think he's probably one of our better defenders, and if it was me, I would have played him a lot more. But based on this season, I'm going to have to give him a D, because he wasn't playing a lot under Goodwin. So, yeah, D for Esselink.
And for me, for Kucherenko, it's got to be an F as well. It's definitely, if this season's been an exam, his time at United, it's a definite clear fail. I felt sorry for the guy, you know. There have been goalkeepers in United's history, recent history, who have been subject of very well-warranted criticism. A certain Australian who I will talk about no more. But Kucherenko, he didn't have an attitude or a superiority complex. It's just his style of play didn't work for us, and it did cost us points. And like you say, Jack, probably did cost us top six. But yeah, ultimately it's tough world, tough luck. It's an F for a fail. Bert Esselink, it's a hard one. I think I'm going to give him a D. A good-looking player, a player that I remember earlier on in the season. I'm thinking, you know what? He's a good defender, but his pace is going to let him down a lot, and that's obviously what has happened. In the games that I saw him in early in the season, he did make a few mistakes, but to his credit, he was very good at recovering from these mistakes. But I think in the end, it was just a few mistakes too many, and he was dropped from the team and struggled to get back into it. So to give him anything more than a D, I think, as much as I would have liked him to get a higher mark. I don't think even a C could have been justified.
Okay, so next up we have Dario Namo and Julius Eskison.
Okay, so Namo seems to get a lot of stick, but I think people fail to realise that he's only 21. Because of that, he's played second string basically the whole season. I'm going to give him a C. I think he's still young, he's still got room to grow. Obviously, if he's fit, he's going to be playing at the World Cup this year, which is excellent. And I think he's got a lot of selling value, and he's got that squad role player where he can play left and right back. So I think that's a pretty good signing. That's Julius Eskison, another player I feel very sorry for. I think he should have been given more time. He didn't fit the system. He doesn't fit the system good when plays. I don't know why we've brought him in, but I actually think he's quite a tidy player. I think he's only 26 as well, so he's still got room to grow. If it was me, I'd have played him in like a 10. Obviously, Goodwin doesn't play that, so based on this season, I'm going to give him a D plus because I feel like he should have been given more game time than he has. And when he's came on, to be fair to him, he has contributed quite well, but he's not played enough to warrant anything higher, I don't think.
For me, I'm going to give these both players a D, and that sounds pretty brutal. It's nothing against them per se, but I just don't think they've really done enough in the squad to merit any kind of higher grade from me, to be honest with you. You know, it's been hard to judge them because they haven't made that many appearances, but I suppose the fact that they haven't made the appearances is the only justification that I've got to give them a D.
Okay, next of all we have Nikolai Molar and Jack's favourite man on earth, Neil Farrugia.
Neil Ferrugia is an F. He's shite. Didn't get him in the team again. I didn't rate him in the slightest. I think he's got no end product. I didn't see what he brings to the team. He's an F. Molar, I actually think somehow we've came out of it better signing Molar than we did thinking when signed him. So we've signed him for, I think, a free or very little money. He's then came in, he's done nothing, and we've sold him for 700 grand. Don't tell me how we've managed it, but we did. And for that, you've probably got to give him a higher grade than what he probably deserves on the pitch. So for that, I'm going to give him a D.
I'm sitting here laughing about that stuff about Nikolai Moller. What a story that is, eh? I think you'll get a C from me purely and simply because of his contributions to the club off the park. Signed him, he was honking. I remember thinking, we've got the next Zlatan Ibrahimovic here, eh? Big, massive guy, but honking on the park, but netted a good bit of cash from the sale. So, yeah, really can't complain. Give him a C for his off the pitch contributions to the club. Ferrugia, yeah, gosh, doesn't offer a hint of the team for me. I'm not going to give him an F because I don't think it's a total fail, but I think a D based on very little contribution to the squad, contribution to the football played this season.
Okay, and just finally we'll give you the last three. So you have Ashley Maynard Brewer, Emmanuel Aguiyi and Johnny Russell.
Oof. Ashley Maynard Brewer, I don't rate him. I'm going to give him a D again. I think he's a poor bit of business. I think we would have been better if we just played Dave Richards throughout the rest of the season and maybe had Rudy Adams as backup. I just don't see what he's got in him, to be honest with you. Who were the other two, sorry?
The other two were Emmanuel Aguiyi and Johnny Russell.
Emmanuel Guy, I think he's been an excellent signing. 20, 21 years old, just called up to the Ghana squad. I think he's been a very good piece of business from us. I can't imagine we paid a whole lot of money for him. Maybe we did. I don't think he was playing much in Israel. But we've picked him up and our performances turned around massively when he came in. I think I also seen somewhere that one of the scouts came up from England to watch another player, but they left very impressed with Guy. I'm going to give him an A. I think he's been very, very, very good, and long may it continue because he's got a lot of potential and he's got a lot of potential sale on value as well. Johnny Russell, fan favourite United. He came in, he's not really done much. I think he probably should have been given more time. Should have been playing ahead of Max Waters anyway. He's absolutely hopeless. I'm going to give Russell a D because it's not worked out for him and he's not been playing as much as we would have all hoped for.
Yeah, much the same for me. Maynard Brewer, I think for me it's a D. It would have been if he came in, played 2 or 3 games, and then was dropped after that. It would be an F. But he's got a D because he's at least turned up to his exam and tried to answer some of the questions. You know what I mean? Not the best goalkeeper we've ever had. I don't really think there's much going to be going on for him at United, to be honest with you. Aggie, I'm going to give him a B. And the reason I give him a B is because he's only been here for such a short time. He's had a B in his prelim, but I think he'll get an A in his final exam. A really good player, rough around the edges in some aspects, but a really good player who I think next season we're going to see the best of, and probably will get an A next season if he continues to show the promise that he's been showing so far this season up until the end. Johnny Russell, I want to give this guy an A, but I can't do that. I think Russell coming to United was more United doing him a favour than him doing us a favour, really. I'm going to give him a C, and the reason I give him a C over a D is because I think he gave the fans something to be a wee bit excited about towards the end of the season, in an end of the season that otherwise would have had nothing to be excited about. Minus the Derby win, obviously. At the age he's at and sort of the lack of football that he's had before coming to Tannadice, he was never going to come here and be the player that he was when he was just a young guy. But yeah, good to see him back in Tangerine and just a player that I never thought I'd see playing on Tannadice in the United colours again. So yeah, a C for him.
The Johnny Russell tribute act. The have been 6 loan signings. I'll give you three and three. So first of all, we have Isaac Papo, Amar Fata, and Christian Carezdes.
Papo, I feel very sorry for because he actually looked a very good player. He was playing well against Vienna, and I think he was looking very, very promising. Unfortunately, he did suffer an injury, and if anything, he's just been a drain on the resources since. I think you can't give him any higher than a. Based on his short appearances, I'd give him maybe a C minus because when he did play well and looked like he was contributing, but obviously he's not played much. So C minus is probably where I'm going to put him at. Crestes, I think he's done okay. He's got mistakes in him. I think people think he's younger than he is. He's 26 years old and he's not got a lot of runway left in terms of improving, I don't think. He probably could have a bit of a calmer head on him. I'm going to give him a B minus. I think he's been fine. He's been there or thereabouts in terms of performances. He's been okay. I think it doesn't warrant anything higher than that for me. Fata, I think he's been very good. He's been a bit hot and cold at times, but what he brings to the pitch, he's really, I feel like maybe we're only attacking threat consistently. And I think teams are a bit wary of him when he's on the pitch and on the ball. So for that, I'm going to give him an A. I think he could be a bit more consistent. But when he gets the ball, you sometimes expect a bit of magic from him. And it shows because there's quite a bit of interest in him in this summer window. So I think he'll get a somewhat decent move out of his season with us. So for me, it's an A.
Yeah, for me, Isaac Papoy, I felt bad for him. I think, to be honest with you, he was probably on track to get an A, but then he got that real stinker of an injury, I think, away against Rapid Vienna, wasn't it? So yeah, it's a DNF for him. I don't think I'm even going to afford him an F. I'll give him a DNF because it'd be unfair to fail him. Amar Fata, I'm going to give him a. I'm going to give him a B plus. He's been a very good player for us, very good to watch, exciting player, a player that'll get the ball at his feet and take players on. I don't think he's done quite enough to get an A for me personally, so a B plus. He's had a good season, and to be honest with you, I would have loved to have been able to sign him on a permanent transfer, but maybe just out with our budget. Carestes, I'm going to disagree with you on this one, Jack. I'm going to give him a D. I think he's absolutely louping. I really think he's got a lot of mistakes in him. I think he takes his eye off the ball. He's just not a great defender, I don't think. So I'm going to give him a D. I've seen a lot. I think some United fans are less inclined to slate him, and then you've got United fans that are inclined to give him a really hard time. And I'm not going to give him a really hard time, but no, just not good enough for me.
Yeah, interestingly though, that statistically he's one of the best defenders in the league.
Yeah, I know it's a weird one. I mean, the numbers don't lie, do they? But just watching him, it's like so frustrating to watch. And these mistakes, they're so clear and obvious. It's like if you could just, wrap them up and stop it, you'd be a far better player, But
Yeah,
it is what it is. Dolchek. I'm going to be punitive and give him a D. To be honest with you, a good player, a player that really early on in the season I thought was going to be a standout and a really good player, but I don't know if it's attitude problems, thinking he's dirty big bollocks or whatever. He just seemed to tail off in form massively from being a starter who was getting goals and assists week in, week out, to just petering away and being a bit of a bench warmer coming on from the bench to try and change games. So a D, not necessarily based on performances alone, but punitive because of his attitude, I think. Max Waters, less said about him the better. Were it not for a good couple of games against Vienna and 2 goals in those 2 ties, I would give him an F. I'm going to give him a D. In the games I've seen of him recently, he offers nothing up front. Absolutely nothing up front. He's so frustrating to watch. You're sitting, I was sitting at Rugby Park a couple of weeks back. He's getting pelters from boys, and justifiably so. He was doing nothing off the ball, nothing on the ball. Just not good enough for me, on to our last loan signing, Lucas Stevenson. I'm going to give him a B plus. I'd like to give him an A because he's a fantastic player, but he's been playing right back, sort of right wing back a lot of the season, and I don't think that's his best position. I think he's better played as more of a midfielder than a wing back. So it would have been an A probably if he was getting played in his right position, but nah, playing a right wing back, done a good job, but it's not his position, and for that it's got to be a B plus.
well, I'll just finish off my loan list as well then. So Dolchek, I'm going to give him a C minus. I think start of the season he looked excellent. Obviously scored 5 goals in just a small number of games. He's obviously not competed as much as what we thought, but I think his attitude might not be the best. However, I think there's a player there, and I think if you get the right manager in there, you get a lot better performances out of him, and he probably is able to focus more and contribute. I think he's actually, you see him when he comes on, he seems to, I'm not going to say have an aura about him, but he's got that presence where you're like, oh, he could do something here. Like, he looks like he's got something about him. So I'm going to give him a C minus for that.
Definitely a talented player.
Yeah, absolutely. Stevenson, I agree with you. B plus probably best for him. He's not an A at right wing back. I feel like he was almost anonymous in games. I feel like I don't ever read in much about people saying, "Oh, Stevenson had a great game" or nothing. I was always someone else that was getting the highlights and the headlines, and it wasn't Stevenson. But look, no doubting he's an excellent player and he's going to have a good career at a better level than United. Obviously captained us as well, and he's only early 20s, so he's definitely going to go into big things. But I think B plus is probably right for this season. Waters, I'm going to give him a D minus. Like you say, he scored a couple of goals against Vienna, and he's not really offered anything else. I don't see what he brings to the team. I don't see what Goodwin sees, and I think we could have done a lot better up top with someone else there. So Max Waters for me is a D minus.
It's really frustrated me seeing Max Waters get so much game time, actually. Like, he really hasn't brought anything to the team, and I think, we could have had Owen Stanton playing, we could have had Johnny Russell playing. I'm not saying they would have contributed any more, but you don't know. But with Waters, we did know that we were getting nothing, so
Yeah.
it baffles the mind that he was getting so much game time. But he did, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Can't contribute any less.
No.
Right, Andy. I'll do yours
Okay.
now, yeah?
Okay, go for it.
Right. Plamen Galabov.
F. Don't need to say any more about that.
Okay, Brad Halliday and Paul Digby.
Brad Halliday, C. Probably because I've not seen enough of him. I do think there's a good player in there, but I've just not seen too much of him. He's been in and out of the team since he signed. Paul Digby, probably a D. He's not been in the team for a long time now, so yeah, I would say probably D.
Dre Wright and Callum Jones.
Dre Wright, I would probably say A, and for reasons that I'll explain later in the podcast. And Callum Jones, I would say C.
Ashley Hay, Ethan Hamilton.
Ethan Hamilton, I'd probably say B+, although you could argue he is an A as well. I think he's been a very good signing. And Ash Hay, I'd probably say B-. I think there's been flashes in there. It's been hampered by injury and lack of starts, but there's definitely a player in there somewhere, and hopefully we'll see more of that next season.
Emil Aqua and Lewis Montsma.
Both Fs, both for different reasons. Monsma, he's never played a minute since he signed, and Aqua, he came in, he's never scored a league goal. Don't even think he scored one goal in the League Cup, I think, and that was away to Bonnyrigg, and he's now on loan at Harrogate, who he didn't score for either, and they want to see the back of him. 2 years left on his contract, fucking mental.
Joe Bevan and Joe Wesley.
Joe Wesley, I'd probably say maybe a B-. I think there's been flashes of good days scored yesterday. He's had a couple of good goals through the season. Obviously missed a large chunk of the season through injury. Joe Bevan, I'd probably say D. I don't think we've seen nearly enough of him since he came in. If he reaches the potential that everyone thinks he will reach, then we could have a good player on our hands.
Last permanent signing is Kieran O'Hara.
It's a very harsh D, given that he's not played a minute all season until the last couple of weeks. But he came in the Livingston game where there was a lot of pressure on the game. He didn't have an awful lot to do, made saves when he needed to make them, won that game to maintain our SPFL Premiership status, and then he's had a couple of games after that where we've obviously lost one and won one. But yeah, it's probably a very harsh F, but purely because of lack of game time.
Okay, loans. Scott Wright, Jan Danda, Cameron Congreve.
Scott Wright, probably a C. Not really managed the game time that he would have wanted. Just came back off the back of a long-term knee injury. He's not hit the heights that he did the last time, even though he was playing in a far worse team the last time. Jan Danda, I'd say a B. I think he's been a very good signing. I'd sign him permanently if we could. And who was the other one, Jack?
Congreve.
I'd say a B as well. I think he's been one of our most influential players going up the pitch. Without him, I'd have another man that you're going to mention soon. I think the season would have been a struggle, but he's not been consistently at that level enough for me to make him an A.
Your last three are Joe Cotterill, Tony Ugan and Francisco Valenzuela.
So Tony Ugan, I would say B as well. They're very much similar to Congreve. When he's been good, he's been good. He does tend to come in and out of games, but like I've said previously, I think wingers are very like that. So yeah, I would give him a B. Joe Cotterill would probably say C. Very much a safe midfielder. I thought we were going to get more of an attacking through the lines type midfielder when we signed him, but seems to be very, very safe. And Valenzuela, I didn't think he's played other than a cameo at Pataudry and never really done much there. So yet another signing from Monterey on loan that's done absolutely bugger all. I'll probably just have to say an F. Okay, so that is us. Now we are going to have our end of season awards ceremony. So we have 5 different awards to give out: Player of the Year, Young Player of the Year, Signing of the Season, Game of the Season, and Goal of the Season. So, Martin, first of all, who has got your Player of the Year award?
My Player of the Year award went to Will Ferry. I think he's been a really good player for us, really consistent, a lot of technical sort of prowess and a lot of goals towards the end of the season. He hadn't scored a goal for United until a few months back, and he's turned into a goal machine towards the end of the season. So yeah, just for his consistency, I think a lot of his leadership skills, his late goals in the season, he's got it for me. Yeah, a good player to watch, a player that takes players on. You know, he runs up the wing, bombs up the wing with the ball, gets good crossing, has contributed with goals. So for me, he's the player of the season.
Okay. What about yourself, Jack?
I've also went Will Ferry. As Martin said, very consistent. Probably our best performer in most games throughout the season. And towards the end of the season, he's really stepped up his game and started contributing at the other end of the pitch. So for me, Will Ferry, Player of the Year.
And for myself, I have went for Dre Wright. Now, I thought it would probably be hypocritical for me to go with anyone else, given that within our own personal supporters club that I go with week in, week out, I did vote for Dre Wright. Ultimately, the award went to Ethan Hamilton, but Dre Wright was my pick. So, a very, very consistent performer this season, played in 2 or 3 different positions and doesn't seem to complain, just gets on with his job, does his job to a high level. A very good sign-in. I would like Dundee to make more type of signings like him. But yeah, Dre Wright has been my Player of the Year. As for Young Player of the Year, I'll go first and we'll go back through you two. I went for Luke Graham. I don't think many people have very much complaints about that. Knocked back a club record bid for him in January. That's how good he's been. I can only see him going on to reach that a lot higher level than Dundee. I wouldn't imagine we'll see very much of him next season. And I think going on into the future, you could see him in a Scotland jersey. But yeah, that's my Young Player of the Year, Luke Graham. What about yourself, Jack?
My Young Player of the Year, I've went Amar Fata. I stated previously, I think he's been a threat a lot of the time this season. He's contributed, he's scored goals and he's got assists, which, to be fair, not many players in the team can say. Yeah, I think he's a very, very talented player who's going to go into big things, and I think he can maybe show the glimpse of why Man City paid $5 million for him a few years ago. So, yeah, for me, Amar Fata, Young Player of the Year.
I've also went Amar Fata for my Young Player of the Year. There's real quality in there, and as he gets older, I think that quality will just mature and develop into a well-rounded player in a few years' time. And unfortunately, a player that'll be too good to be signed for United permanently. So yeah, he gets my Young Player of the Year.
And Martin, what about your signing of the season?
I've also went by Amar Fata for the signing of the season. I think he's been a standout player in terms of, you know, what he offers running up the wing. He takes players on, he's exciting to watch. He's the kind of player that gets fans off their feet, you know what I mean? He's a good team player, but he's also a good individual player. 9 goals this season for us. It's a decent contribution from a winger. So, yeah, he's got my Young Player of the Year and signing of the season for me.
My signing of the season, I've went permanent signings. I've looked at this permanently, and I think the best piece of business we've done is Agui. As I also mentioned previously, I think he's played very well. Yes, he's only been here 6 months, but what he's shown in that time, I think he's been excellent. He's still only 21 years old, so they say. His face says otherwise, but you know, it's probably just a hard paper round. Yeah, I think he's a great piece of business, and hopefully we've tied him down to a long deal and we could sell him on for a few million in a year or two time. So yeah, signing of the season for me, Agui.
Okay, signing of the season for myself, I could have went for Dre Wright because he was obviously my player of the year and he signed last season, or this season, last summer. But I thought I'll go something different, so I went for Ethan Hamilton. Probably harsh giving him a B in terms of his performances this season in the signings category that were done earlier. I think he's been a very good addition. He's obviously captained Dundee on numerous occasions this season. Was at the Player of the Year awards last night and he swept the awards, won the vast majority of them. Driving force in the middle of the park, gives us energy, gives us kite, gives us physique, gives us pressing ability, all sorts of stuff. And he's also scored 2 or 3 absolute screamers. So that is my signing of the season. So we'll go round back to you, Martin. What has been your game of the season?
So my game of the season, you might think it's a bit of a funny one because it's a game that we ultimately lost, but it's the Rapid Vienna game at Tannadice. Obviously, we all know how it ended. It was heartbreak at full time after that penalty shootout, but we ran them so close. But that first half was absolutely unbelievable. Walking out of Tannadice, sitting in the shed, the sun was out, the crowd was absolutely massive crowd at Tannadice. It was such a good atmosphere. The place was buzzing before the game, and sitting there at 2-0, you're thinking, this must have been what it was like in the 1980s. The place was jumping. When the second goal went in the penalty, it was just absolute scenes. And yeah, it was a shame the way it ended, but bitter as it was a game that at full time, we could clap the players off and really applaud the effort they put in because they fought like troopers in that game. They really did. They deserve to go through, I think, in that game. I don't think that's an unfair thing to say. It was just fantastic atmosphere and just bitterly disappointing at the end. But yeah, a night I'll never forget.
For me, I've on the same track as Martin, just the reverse fixture. I went with the Rapid Vienna 2, United 2 game in Vienna. I think it was a game where nobody expected us to get anything out of. Rapid Vienna, obviously, a very well-known club, massive budget compared to United, and we go there and we don't look out of place at all. And as Martin said, it showed the current United fans what it was like in the 80s, watching United in Europe every year. I think that was a great game for United fans, for the Tangerine perspective, and for me, that's my game of the season.
For myself, my game of the season was Dundee 2 Celtic 0. I think when you beat Celtic for the first time at home since the late 80s, and you personally see Dundee beat Celtic for the first time, there can't really be no other game unless we were to have absolutely hammered United or got to a cup final or something like that. So that is my game of the season. Obviously 2-0 up at half time. Probably could have went further up in the second half. A couple of good saves from Kasper Schmeichel, and luck just seemed to fall our way that night, or that afternoon, should I say. So my game of the season, Dundee 2 Celtic now, with an honourable mention to a 3-2 victory at Pittodrie earlier this season as well. But we'll move on to our final category, which is goal of the season. So Martin, kick us off.
My goal of the season takes us back to that tie against Rapid Vienna, but this time the away game. I'm going to give it to Zach Sapsford for his goal in that game. It wasn't the kind of goal that you look at and you're like, "What, fantastic!" He's hit it from 100 yards out. It's flew in the back of the net. I just think his technique for that goal was really good. It was an awkward position for him to strike the ball. He had a Vienna defender right on top of him, but he got his foot onto the ball, made good contact with it, and got it in the back of the net. And I just think it showed a real bit of class and a real bit of technical ability to be able to make such a clean contact with that ball, given the circumstances. On a big stage for him, you know what I mean? He's never played anything like what playing in Europe is when he's been at his previous club. So I think for him to come up with that in that moment was a really good goal, a lot of skill, and that's my goal of the season.
My goal of the season was also Sapsford, but it was his goal against Celtic. All comes into him. He miscontrols it slightly. He shimmies his body, it throws the Celtic defender off, taps it back away from goal, and just curls it in from the corner of the box. We're winning against Nancy's Celtic, and Yeah, I thought it was a great finish. It showed a real bit of class and skill there to find the opposite corner of the net, and for me, that's my goal of the season.
And finally, for me, my goal of the season is Ross Graham's header at Dens. I'm looking. My one is
Very funny.
It's Ethan Hamilton's goal at Pittodrie. It could have been Ethan Hamilton's goal at Parkhead, but for me, he gets the ball 25-30 yards out, shimmies past a couple of players, and then he hits it like a fucking rocket, and it hits the bar and goes in. Always the best type of goals aesthetically to watch when they hit the bar, but also it hits the bar at such a pace that it doesn't actually take any. It doesn't even stop the ball and make it bouncing onto the line or something. It just clips the bar and then hits the net and just dies in the net. It's such an aesthetically pleasing goal to watch. So that is my goal of the season: Ethan Hamilton against Aberdeen at Pittodrie. But time is marching on, gents, so we will move on to our final portion of the season review episode that we're currently doing, and that is our end of season quiz. Now, I give Martin 5 questions. I'm sure, Jack, you've done the same. My 5 questions will go to yourself. Your 5 questions will go to me. I have made 2 tie-break questions for yourself in case they are needed. Hopefully you've done the same. What we'll do, Jack, is we'll flip a coin. You'll have to trust me that I'm telling the truth. Are you calling heads or tails?
Tails never fails.
Tails. Do you want to go first or second?
I'll go first, why not?
Okay, right, Martin, you are up.
Right, Jack, are you ready for your first question?
Hit me.
United beat Celtic twice at Tannadice this season. Name the United goal scorers from each game.
Fucking hell. I thought these might be easy. Let's go. Well, Satsford scored. I don't even know. I'm going to get 0 points on this quiz, by the way, just so you know. The tiebreaker's certainly one I needed. I'm actually drawing a blank. Let's go Fata. I don't even know how many goal scorers there was. Fata, and let's go, I don't know, Max Waters.
Is that your final answer, those 3 players?
Yeah.
So you are correct with one of them, but the
Satsford.
4 players were Satsford, Ferry, Agee and Caresses. So unfortunately, there's no points on that first question.
Yeah.
So Skinner, we will go. Right, Andy. Who was Dundee's first official player signing this season?
I think it was Emil Aqua.
Is that your final answer?
It is.
I can tell you that Dundee's first official player signing was Paul Digby.
Oh, yeah, that is right, yeah. Okay.
Jack.
Martin.
What was the aggregate score as United beat Una Strassen in July?
2-0.
2-0, correct.
Boom, let's go.
Andy. According to the D Archive, Dundee have had 3 red cards this season. Who got the first?
Oh, God. I've got no idea. Was it Jan Danda against Motherwell?
Is that your final answer?
Yeah.
Andy, you got your first point. It was Jan Danda.
Perfect.
Okie doke. Right, Jack, question 3. Which English club did United sign Panucci Kamara from?
Crawley Town.
Final answer?
Yep.
You've got your second point on the board there, Jack.
Oh, let's go.
Andy, question number 3 for yourself. How many clean sheets did Dundee get in the league this season?
God, not many. Say 6.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah.
This season, Dundee had 7 clean sheets in the league.
1.5. Okay.
Right, okie doke. Skinner, question 4. What has been the highest attendance at Tannadice this season? Now, you've got 2 games to choose from here. Versus Dundee on the 3rd of the 1st this year, or versus Celtic on the 22nd of the 3rd this year.
I mean, everyone walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck. It's probably a duck, right? So I'm going to go Dundee.
Dundee, final answer.
Yeah.
By a margin of 267 fans, the highest attendance was against Dundee, so that's a point on the board for you.
Oh, yes.
Right, Andy, question 4. Dundee beat Kilmarnock 2-1 in the Scottish Cup. Who scored the winning goal?
Dre Wright.
Final answer?
Yep.
Second point on the board, Andy.
Was that 3-2?
That's 3-2, 4 questions played.
So if Jack gets this, he's won. No pressure, Jack.
Right.
Not at all.
Right, Jack, for yourself, question number 5. Name 2 Dundee United players this season to have received a red card.
A gay and a red card. Let's go Craig. Oh, I'm going to go Juve.
So you went for Aguirre and Yovu.
Yeah.
Is that your final answers?
Yeah.
Skinner, you've won it.
Oh,
That's
let's
correct.
go!
You had Aguirre, Kamara, Fata, Yovu and Sevelge.
I was going to say Crestes, but I was like, no, it's not.
Andy, I'll give you your 5th question just to round it up.
Go for that.
Simon Murray was the only player to score a brace for Dundee in the league this season. Who was that against?
It was Livingston, I think.
Was Livingston. So it's 4-3 Jack at the end. Do you want your tiebreaker questions?
Go for it. We'll see how he gets on.
Andy, I've got yours up on the screen, so I'll just read your 2 just now. Which player has made the most appearances for Dundee this season?
John McCracken?
Nope. Want to go again?
Ryan Astley?
Nope, it was Tony Yogan. 30
Okay.
starts, 11 subs.
Okay.
And where did Dundee sign Brad Halliday from?
Bradford.
Bradford City, the very same. Right, Skinner, your 2. What squad number has Johnny Russell worn since his return?
Oh, I want to say 28.
Want to guess again?
No.
You're miles off it, 77.
Oh, well.
And who did United sell Nikolai Moller to?
Sanford.
Sanford, that's right. Yeah, 4-3 Jack at the end of the game.
Very well played, Jack. Very well played.
Thank you.
You doubted yourself after that first question.
I know. Don't ask me any questions about who scored the goals. I'll never get it right.
Okay, so that is the end of our season review. We will take a break now for I think the next couple of weeks, and the week leading up to Scotland's first World Cup game against Haiti, we'll bring you our World Cup special episode. Thereafter we'll have short episodes after each game. I'll probably be myself on each episode with potentially Martin, potentially Jack, potentially both Martin and Jack, and other people as well, as we go through the World Cup. That'll continue as far as Scotland progress, so when we're playing at the MetLife against England in the World Cup final, we'll have an episode after that to celebrate our 3-0 victory. But thanks very much to everybody who has listened this season. You can catch all our updates on our social media platforms, which are as follows: Twitter, Sandeman ST Pod, Instagram at the Sandeman Street Pod, and on YouTube we are at the Sandeman Street Podcast. So thanks very much to Martin and to Jack for joining me today. Well done to Jack for winning the quiz.
Thank you.
thank you very much to everyone who has listened this season, as I said. So thanks very much, as always. Have a great weekend. Cheers.
Thank you.